I'm Bill Corcoran Jr., and I'm your host for the On the Stacks podcast. Today, I'm chatting with Kris and Steve Vanesko, partners at Blue Door Financial. What's up, podcast episode 52. Welcome back to the On the Stacks podcast, Kris and Steve.
Welcome.
Nice to see you again.
Yeah, it's been a whole year. I can't even believe it, and it's like deja vu. We got the Blue Door in here again, and the physically actual Blue Door, and
have door will travel.
Yeah, and the Blue Door, from what you guys told me, has been hidden for a whole year. So I'm glad we brought it back out.
It was in COVID hiding.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah,
it was quarantined.
Yeah. So I thought it was only appropriate to have you guys back on for episode 52, which this is the 1 year anniversary of the podcast itself. So I'm excited to have you guys back on.
Well, congrats.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's exciting. So I think in episode 1, I don't think we really talked a whole lot about, each of your backgrounds and kind of how you got into, the insurance world and into Blue Door. So let's start with each of you and just talk a little bit about, your background before you got into Blue Door. And let's start with you, Steve.
Okay. So my background actually was architecture. So went to school for architecture. Actually ran a landscape business early on in my 20s. And from there, I moved into commercial sales of equipment, which I did for about 15 years. In between that and coming into the finance world, I actually helped oversee and start up a business where we got into the trucking business, which was more of a regional specialty. So that was kind of short-lived because it was just based on a current environment that we were satisfying a need for a specific time. And as that all progressed and came through, I was ready for, I think, a big change, in my life. Probably mid-40s, I'm like just really tired of doing these other things. And my father has been in the finance industry for 51 years. And so I looked at what he did. Kriss was actually in, a bunch of years before too. And he and I had some conversations. And so I said, I'm going to take a look at this. And I like where it's going. I like what it could do for me long-term. And so, I said, okay, I'm going to give this a shot. And so came over into the finance world and then was 3 years into it. And then that's when Kriss and I really put Blue Door together from there.
Yeah. So what would you say you learned from your past experiences that has helped you in, your career nowadays?
So it's business experience without a doubt. So, we specialize in working with a lot of business owners and when you sign the front of a paycheck versus the back of a paycheck, you really understand what that's about. And so it's that experience that, I'll never take for granted what a business owner does to make his business work and to keep it going and to make sure that his family and X amount of other families that they're responsible for do each day. And then, through some of my other sales experience too, I had a really good career where, I sold commercial equipment for quite a while. And, that really helped me develop how sales really worked. And so hands down, if I did this 20 years before, I would not be as successful. It's my life experience that puts me where I am today, without a doubt.
Got any good sales stories?
Oh, let's see. Sales stories. Getting thrown out is always a good sales story.
Oh, who doesn't love getting thrown out?
So, when you're actually, working with a customer or a client and, it's just, you're probably going down, and the motto is always, if we're going down, go down in flames. So, you kind of push a little bit hard and things weren't lining up. And I knew I was probably on the way out the door, wasn't getting the sale. And so I just pushed a little bit hard in this one particular case. And the client, he really got hot-headed. And we still talk today. It was just probably he was having a bad day. I was pushing that day. And it was just like, probably time for you to go. And so, needless to say, I didn't get that sale.
Well, what did you learn from that?
To really respect what someone else is going through. So not me first, them first, without a doubt.
Okay.
Yeah. So because a lot of times, and actually I've learned this in other instances too, through the other businesses that, a lot of times we look at what is important to us, and actually that should be secondary. It should be what's important to the person who's sitting across the table from us, because when you look at it that way, when you put them first, they know that you actually care about what you're trying to do and help them with. And then it actually becomes a good rhythm that you work together in a good fashion. So that was a great learning experience. Even though I didn't get that sale, I know how, it taught respect, and it taught that, my needs are not what's most important. It's doing what I'm there to do. It's the reason that you're there. So if you look at it that way. Yeah.
Good outlook.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kriss, what about you? Let's take it back a little bit, talk a little bit about, your experiences before leading up to Blue Door.
So from the age of probably 19, maybe 20, I dropped out of college and came home with a car full of all my goods. And my dad looked at me and he goes, "What the hell are you doing here?" I said, "I quit school." And he goes, "Well, you better get a job." And I says, "Yeah, well, I'll work it out." So a friend of mine was home from med school at the time, and he was just doing, I think he was in med school, maybe doing his undergrad, but he was painting and doing some work and like just, some summer work. And I said, "Robbie, let me help you out." So I started working with him, and then he went back to school, and I just kept working. And every time somebody asked me for something, I just never said no. And then I'm like, I think I'm really onto something here. And, it was just a painting business to begin with. And then somebody says, "Hey, can you fix my kitchen?" I'm like, "Sure, I could do that." "Could you build me a deck?" "Sure, I could do that." I just never said no. "Do you know how to hang doors?" I'm like, "Yeah, I could replace doors for you, whatever you need." And then our oldest brother, who's in commercial construction, he's like, "Hey, you know how to weld, don't you?" I'm like, "I do." He goes, "I have a welding job that needs to be done." He goes, "You should come check it out." So I went and checked it out. And he goes, "I got a lot more of this." He goes, "Go get a welder. Go get these couple tools." And I'm like, "Well, how much work were we talking about?" And he's like, "It's pretty significant. There's a lot of work to be done." And so I would set up my truck with more commercial tools. And I went from painting houses and doing residential work to commercial industrial for over 12 years.
Okay.
And then I got married through that process, have 3 kids. That lifestyle is rough. You're all over the place, sun up to sundown. You don't get to see really much of each other because by the time I get home, I'm exhausted and fell asleep. Sun up, I was gone. Never saw my kids. I used to come home, kiss and go to bed, and I didn't even see them in the morning. So eventually, I just got tired of that, and I was looking for something else. And our father says, "Hey, I'll get an interview." I said, "An interview for what?" He goes, "Come work with me." I go, "You're out of your mind." He goes, "No, you're really good at helping people." I says, "Okay, I know how to fix stuff." He goes, "No, you're good at solving problems." I'm like, "Dad, I don't know where you're going with this." He goes, "Do me a favor. Just come take an interview." And probably a year's worth of banter between the two of us. And I found a nice property that had like 4 apartments and a restaurant. I was like, "All right, I'll fix that up and I'll have the restaurant going." And I've always kind of wanted to own a restaurant, and it's something that's in me. I like to cook and mess around with food. And I was like, "All right, if I could have that, have the properties, that's more money. I'll have the construction company going. I'll just kind of step back and run things." He goes, "You'll never see your children if you own a restaurant." I go, "What do you want from me?" He goes, "Just take an interview." I go, "Okay, I'll take an interview if you leave me alone." So I figured I was going to take an interview and then go buy this restaurant. And then I took 4 interviews and I signed a contract with New York Life. That was 12 and a half years ago.
Yeah.
So I say my first career was 12 years in construction, working blue collar and welding and building stuff for people. Now I do it paper. We build financial houses.
Yeah.
And that's kind of something that I put together when I started in this industry because there's a lot of confusing jargon and lingo and language that people go, "I don't know what they're saying." I'm like, all right, so I had to kind of put it in a place where I could understand it and then relay it to you as a customer or whoever I was with. And so we just simplified it. And then when Steve came into the business, he came to me and said, he goes, "You think I can have the success that you had?" I'm like, "Dude, you'd kill it." Because he's just a natural salesman. And he came in, he set records in his first year that the office hasn't done, that I didn't do. I knew he would outpace me. He's just a natural sales rep. And then I was in a management position at the time, and he was finishing his 3-year, they call it like training period. At the end of it, I was going through some transitions on my side, and he said, "Well, I'm almost done with this." He goes, "You want to start our own practice?" And I go, "Hell yeah." Yep. So it's something I always figured I was going to do on my own, but he came into the business. So here we are in a partnership, and we're just having a blast.
Yeah. So then at that point, the partnership was Blue Door.
Yes.
Yeah. We knew we were going to call it something. We just didn't know what. And as we were moving into the old building, had a big bright red door, almost as pink as the pants on your picture there. And I'm like, "We can't keep that door. It's a little awkward." And he goes, "Yeah, we'll paint it blue or something." And then we couldn't find a name because all the domain names were taken. And I think he's like, "How about Blue Door?" I'm like, "Let's check it out." So that's where it came from. And it was the Blue Door. And I think I said to him or somebody, I'm like, "Blue Door, we're blue collar." I said, it's a pretty good fit. And then we ran it by a bunch of friends that are in marketing and, consulting. And they said, it's an awesome name. It's inviting. It's welcoming. The color's great. And we ran with it.
Yeah, I actually just had a client that we were speaking with, and that was her words. Is she said, "I love the blue door." She said it's warm and welcoming, and so I was like, "All right, cool." That it's like it solidifies what you did. So it actually says, that's the right name. And she even said, I've seen other people go through marketing firms, but she's like, you guys, hit this as a home run,
Nailed it.
Picking that. And then to Chris's point, we talk about the financial house and my background in architecture, and then and him in construction, we just kind of always lean towards that, and it all meshes and blends together, and actually it becomes part of our process in marketing.
So before we started taping, you said, what's kind of like your tagline, or what are you known for? And I got to tell you, it's something we've tossed around for 3 years almost now. Like, we're known for a lot of different things, but like, what's our specialty? It's us, and it's our process. And I think my wife or somebody coined it, and all the ideas that we've been talking about, and it said, blue collar values with white collar results. Everybody wants white collar results. I mean, look at the stuff going on in the market today in the past couple weeks with GameStop. Well, guess what? The blue collar guys are taking it to the white collar guys because they found out there's a secret that they could get into, and they could make money. And there's nothing wrong with, there's nothing illegal going on. They found a loophole that they could get in, and they're doing it. But guess what? Everybody thinks it's just us against them kind of world. It's not. We're all together. Like we are. This whole world's together. We're all in the same boat.
Yeah, exactly.
So those kids or whoever that's doing that trading is making money. Good for them. But in the long run, it could hurt pension funds and other stuff, all the blue collar people that are on the back end of the hedge funds. So there's always, as Newton said, there's a flip side to the coin, and there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? So we try to just help people dumb it down, simplify it, and say, listen, it doesn't have to be that complicated. Let me help you work within your budget and your world to get the best out of it. So that's what we're known for. We're helping people live the best financial life they could live. And if we could help you get better and do better year after year, that's a home run for us.
Yeah, we just want to simplify it really to help people make a good decision. So there's so much, industry jargon that is out there. We've taken our process to just make it so that they understand it the way we understand it, so then they could say, yeah, this is the right thing for me or not.
Yeah, so it's not so scary.
Exactly.
Right. And it could be. And I think when people as human beings find things are intimidating, guess what they do? Nothing. So when something is confusing, they just step back. So back it up, Jerry.
Yeah. So we also, speaking, we were just talking about the blue door and how you got the name and everything else. And we actually have a big and special announcement regarding the blue door.
We do. So, we really love what you're doing. And it's something that you put it out on social media a year ago. Hey, I'm thinking of starting a podcast.
And you commented on it.
And you and I have known each other for quite some time. And I said, Bill, I think you'd be a natural. You should run with it. And I was in Vegas with him at the time. We were on a trip with our families. And I was kind of just following it. And there was some other people commenting. And I says, he's kind of on the fence. I says, I got to push him a little bit. I said, Billy, if you do it, I'll be your first guest. And you're like, done. Let's go.
I said, yeah. But reminder. I said, only if you bring
a blue door,
a physical blue
and I
door.
Said, we'll make it happen.
Yep.
So, we just wanted to celebrate the 1 year anniversary with you and sponsor the studio for you and have the Blue Door Studio moving forward for the whole year and just help you out and run this thing and just help you take off. And I know you're going to do likewise for us because what you got going on is it's fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.
We're excited. I think
it's a great partnership.
It's going to be a great partnership. Exactly.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I appreciate you guys trusting in me to share your story and what you guys do, and just help educate some people.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
thanks.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we got the Blue Door Studio here. Blue Door Studio here.
Yeah.
Now. Yeah. So Kriss, you mentioned a little bit about blue collar. You guys recently had an article I saw in the Times Leader.
Mm-hmm.
And it said the title was "A True Blue Local Business."
Yep.
What's the meaning behind that?
Well, it's a play on words with our name, but just what I spoke about a few minutes ago, our differentiator is us. It's our blue collar values. We're going to work hard for you, and we're going to invest in you before you ever invest with us. We're going to give you time, resources, energy, And if you don't work with us, that's okay. We educate you. Hopefully, you're going to make a better decision. But if we get to uncover something with you, we hope to be able to be the ones to solve it for you. You know, but that's what the article was really about, and it was meant to really pay an honor to our father too. I think the word is homage. I was trying to say, you know, Dad spent 50 years in this industry, and he finally, I think after we put this together, took a good step back, and he just finally said, "Okay, the baton's passed, and these guys got it." And it's just great to,
and he's proud to see that.
Yeah,
too,
and it's just great to work with him, and we bring him as a consultant whenever he feels like, and he'll come visit the office and work with some clients here or there. But guess what? At 80 years old, that's all he should be doing.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah. And he was a mechanic, right?
And
so diesel mechanic.
The blue blood runs thick.
Yeah, I mean, we all come
Tell him
from
about that story.
Yeah, so I mean, he was a diesel mechanic at Franconi Auto Parts for I don't even know how many years, and put himself through night school because he wanted to do better for himself and his family, and he was looking for a management position. So he said, you know, if I can find a management position, I can, you know, do one better, and I don't have to bust my knuckles to make that living. And so he found New York Life, and his boss or his managing partner at the time said, "Listen," he said, "Are you dumb enough to listen, Phil?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "I'll do what you tell me." And so his career took off, and he was actually building a nice team for the first couple of years. And then the 72 flood actually had come into play, which obviously was very devastating to the whole valley. And so his team kind of fell apart because everybody was just really taking care of personal needs at the time. And so he's like, well, what do I do at this point? So he just went back into sales, and he became, you know, one of the top agents in the office, you know, year over year over year, and built a nice practice and raised 6 of us. And, you know, I look up to him. He's a mentor to me. So
our mom never worked outside the house. Like our oldest brother, so there's Jeff, then Steve, then me. Jeff, I believe, is a honeymoon baby, so my mom never had to go back to work after Franconi Auto Parts, where they actually met, where my dad was a mechanic. Yeah. And my dad was able to raise 6 of us. I mean, that's a lot. I mean, I have 3 kids, and I somehow pull my hair out, and I'm like, I don't know how he did double.
Yeah.
But he did it.
Yeah. But I mean, this has given us the ability to give our family similar, you know, to allow us to, you know, afford our children to have mom home with them and give them similar lifestyle. So, you know, I think this is probably, for me, the best career move that I made you know, and it was at the right time, like we talked about earlier.
What would you say is the best advice your dad ever gave you? I'll let you both answer that. Hopefully, both don't have the same answer.
You go first.
You know, probably just keeping it simple. The KISS theory. So keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think when you keep, like we talked about it multiple different times, you keep it simple and you help people understand, it just makes things easier, you know. And probably the other piece of advice is, you know, just your principles. You know, I have core principles, and put God first and put family second, and work will fall in place, and it'll all work out. And, you know, you have the right morals, and things go right, and, you know, it just all aligns. So, yeah.
Nice.
So
right.
he kind of stole part of it. So
I was going to say,
the one thing I was thinking of, though, professionally, he always said, you know, sales isn't about product, and it's about your client and what they're trying to fix or obtain. You know, it's either a problem or a goal. So he's like, how do you help them do that? He goes, you got to come up with a solution. He goes, but then they're not going to just, oh, great, thanks, and take it. He goes, you have to paint the picture. And he always says that. He goes, paint the picture for them of what it looks like after they work with you, after they get the solution. He says, if you could get them to see it, they'll do it. Because we're visual creatures. And he's right. Every time I lose a sale, I'll sit back, I might go in my car and I'll curse a little bit. And then I go, all right, what could I do better or different? Or why did I lose that? Or what happened? Yeah. And I go, I didn't paint the picture. I pushed product, or I talked about price, or whatever, because I was in a rush, or whatever it was. I didn't slow it down and paint the picture. He's like, sales is an art. He goes, you paint that picture. He goes, odds are they work with you.
I like that.
Yeah, it's true. There's definitely
right.
truth to that.
The more you do that, because it's process oriented, you know, you can't just, you know, you guys are kind of art here in printing business. It's all art, and there's process to it, right?
Yep.
So that you get base layers, and then overlays, and then finished layers, right? You don't just slap it all together. You're painting that picture, and there's a process to it. And that's what he talks about all the time. So if you're in sales and you want to learn to do better, paint the picture for your client.
I like that. Any other good sales advice?
Always client first. Their needs before your needs, without a doubt. Like I talked about earlier. Yeah, I think that when nobody cares about how much you know until they know about how much you care. I don't know if everybody's heard that before, but holds true.
Totally.
Be a full resource for your client and invest in yourself as a sales rep. So if you're not willing to sit down and read books and educate yourself on the products and the services that your company offers, or read a mental health book to get better, if you're not willing to invest in yourself, don't expect people to invest in you. So always educate yourself and get better. Always. Like I made a resolution this year to finish books. I read books all the time, but I never finish because I'm like, I got enough out of that. There's so much more juice in the end of it.
Yeah.
So I've already finished 2 books this year. It's probably the more I've read. I've probably finished 2 books in my life if I really look back.
All right, I'm going to call you out. What were they?
So the first one is 6 to 7 Figures by Alex Netzi. And it talks about going from being a 6-figure producer to a 7-figure producer. Who wouldn't want to be a millionaire, right? Everybody says all the time, "Oh, I'd love to be a millionaire." I'm like, well, how are you working on that? It doesn't just happen by chance. There's no luck equation. You have to work at it. So guess what? I'm looking for all the equations. I'm talking to all the people that produced $1 million and trying to replicate it. That's what it's about. And the other one I'm in the middle of, it's called Good to Great. And I cannot remember the guy's, the author.
That's all right.
But
I'll look it up after this. And when I post this podcast on my website on thestacks.com, when I post about the podcast, the episode coming out, I'll put a link to it.
But I already bought 3 other books that as soon as these are done, they're in line.
All right.
Yeah. So
report back to me in
you got to read
a few months, all right?
Listen, the magic is in books. You can't just social media and TV it. There's magic in books. There really is.
Yeah.
And I as a student growing up, I used to read books and fall asleep. If it's going to show me how to make more money and do better things for my family, I'm all about it. I finish books. I finish the books that do that.
And to Chris's point with educating ourselves, if you don't continue to educate yourself in whatever it is your specialty is or your industry is, you got to realize that there's 4 or 5 people right behind you who are educating themselves, and they will pass you by if you don't continue. So I think it's important what he's talking about to say, what's my next steps to continue to grow? Like, we don't claim to know it all, but we continue to grow. And I think that's important too, as we evolve and grow our practice too.
Yeah. Speaking of evolving and growing your practice, I mean, you guys just moved into a new location. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So
that was his responsibility or his brainchild. So I'll let him take that part.
So I'm always looking forward, I guess you could say. And I could see we were in a 1,000 square foot office, which started out as a 600 square foot office, which then we expanded a little bit. And then from there, we started growing the practice, and a couple other people and other, had joined the team. And as the team was growing, we're really putting together a bigger team. And so we had an open floor plan. There was like a conference room, one private office, an open floor plan. Put 5 or 6 people in that and be on the phones and see what that's.
Well, let me interrupt you.
How noisy that is.
The intent was just he and I and a receptionist.
Yeah,
it turned into a lot of people really quick, and then it was a good problem to have.
Yeah. So honestly, I had been looking for space because versus doing a build out, I thought, okay, if we could find the right space, we could grow properly and have the room and resources for the team that we're probably going to end up building. And so I had been looking around, and there was a beautiful office space, and we're fortunate that we were able to actually move into it. Beautiful office space over on Market Street in Kingston, and I had seen it probably, I don't know, I looked at that thing online 10 times, and I'm like, Chris, we just got to go look at this. He's like, there's no way. There's no way. I said, listen, let's just go see it. It's been there. I don't think anybody's been in it for a little bit. So we made an appointment. We go look at it, and we're like, this is perfect. Like, it had offices for each of us, proper area for our staff and for newer people and other offices. And so, listen, I talked about God earlier, and God blessed us, and we were fortunate that it was able to, make it work. And so, we were able to move into that office and be able to offer, more to not only our staff and team, but our clients as well. So we're over at 340 Market Street.
Come see you.
Third floor. It's the whole third floor. It's beautiful.
It is. I've been there. I've actually been there, and it is. It's nice. It does. It looks like a financial services office, but in a good way.
It is. Yeah. It's inviting.
Yeah.
I still miss the garage door.
Yeah.
And so if you were at our old office, and we joke around about it, but the old office actually used to be a printery long time ago. And so part of the office in that open area, it had a garage door. And everybody used to always kind of joke about it, but I'm like, the garage door is great. And so Kriss and I always say, you know what? Good things start in a garage.
All things do.
Exactly.
They did.
Yeah.
You know? So, I mean, if we're just repeating history, watch out Google.
Yeah. Look out.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm obviously going nowhere. I didn't start in a garage.
I think there's a couple garage doors on here.
Yeah, there are in the building. There's a few. Yeah. So I guess it kind of counts. So, but and by the way, we also have another first today. Kriss is standing. I've never had a guest that stood.
Is it really freaking you out that much?
No, I think it is.
No, it's just kind of funny.
Like, I like the freedom.
I feel like I need to stand too.
Yeah.
Like I'm half tempted to get up.
Try it out. It's free.
I know. I'll make too much noise with this mic and then I'll get yelled at. You know. So, but and also, by the way, you know, I told you guys beforehand. I went back and I listened to episode 1, which again, if anyone forgets, Kris and Steve were on episode 1 of the podcast. But I went back and I listened again to episode 1. And man, did we sound like we were in a freaking tunnel because back then, this room, the podcast studio, was so bare. We didn't even have.
There was a little desk and some stacks.
It was like
stacks of papers.
It was ghetto. It was super ghetto. Like it was
ghetto.
It was a desk and like a small table that like not even a child could have put his knees underneath it. And Mike, man, the audio guy at the time couldn't even scooch under the table. So like it was just but you know, humble beginnings.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know?
That's right.
So I think after, you know, when this episode comes out, I think it's going to sound a little better, and it's not like we're in a tunnel.
It's amazing what happens in a year too.
Yeah.
So it's what amazes me most about the past year is, you know, everybody's like COVID this and COVID that, and excuse me, knock on wood.
Yeah. I think everyone heard that.
We're all healthy, you know, and I thank God for that. But, you know, we quarantined in March like everybody else did. We went home for 3 months, shut everything down, and then we got a green light to go back to the office. And I think it was midsummer we found this place, and then by October we got to move in, you know, and so many people asked, like, you're growing? I'm like, we hired multiple staff. We have another associate that came on board with us. And now another girl just today we found out was able to move her contract over to us because her office is completely shut down. So she's actually coming over. We're growing. Like we're growing and there's so much out there to do. There's so many people that need help. Listen, you got to just ask for help. Humility is a big thing.
Yeah. Everyone's afraid to ask.
I'll tell you what, he and I, all the time, we talk about ego. Like you walk in the door, there's a coat closet, check your coat and check your ego. If you could do that, man, you could get so much accomplished. Listen, we argue about stuff, but we never get mad about it. We have the moment, we talk about it, and then we move forward.
Yeah.
It's not about ego. It's about what's right for the situation or for the moment or for the client. And then we go forward. You know, it's about solutions and moving forward, continue to move forward and always be grateful. You know, it's just, there's people that didn't wake up. So I'm happy. Every morning I sit up on the edge of the bed and I say, thanks for another day.
And people out of business.
And there's people
absolutely. Yep. And I think there's opportunity, and not to take opportunity, you know, when people are struggling, but I think as business owners, you need to be able to pivot, you know, or change and adapt, or the adaptability so that you can actually, you know, just adjust and make it through hard times. Honestly, you know, our process has been more streamlined because of the environment. We were forced to. You know, you couldn't go see people. You couldn't go drive all over the place. So we were actually forced to, you know, turn our process a little more electronic and be able to still talk to clients because it is important to them. You know, what we do, they're actually were more interested to make sure they were okay. But we were able to adapt to a new environment and then actually made us more efficient, which I think is part of the reason for our growth. And so any business owner, if you can find the way to adapt to your current situation as markets changing or environments changing, those are the things that are keys to success in a business. That's what helps give you longevity, because the one thing that's certain to happen is change. So things will always change, and it's how do we adapt and change with them.
So how did the whole COVID situation help you guys? You talked about being more efficient. Like, how specifically did it help you guys?
So I don't have to drive 30,000 miles a year. I probably drive 10 like a normal person. and then, I get to do a lot of, video meetings or even just phone calls, and people are actually so happy to talk to you. They're thrilled that you can connect in that way. And then listen, on a limited basis, we do get together with certain clients when it's necessary, in the proper fashion. But it's made us more efficient because I could see so many more people in a day. And it allows us to actually be able to take care of, the people that trust in us, and we're there for them, and our resources are more available to them. So it's really been beneficial to us to be able to adapt in this way.
I'll tell you a funny story.
I love funny stories.
It's not like funny, haha, but it's
good story,
kind of humorous. So a client of mine ended up losing a friend of his, and we talked about it. And I said, "Listen, I just want you to know, I'm sorry." I talked to him about condolences, and I said, "Listen, if your friend needs any help, just please tell her to call me. I'll help her do all the claims." He's like, "She's not your client." I go, "We do it for anybody. We'll help handle claims because it's confusing." He goes, "Okay, that's great to know." 2 or 3 weeks later, he goes, "I talked to my friend. She's probably going to reach out to you." Steve and I are standing at like our secretary's desk. She's like, "Oh, so-and-so's coming in to see you." And I go, "Boy, that name sounds so familiar." He got referred to the same client by one of his clients. Like, we got people all over the place just saying, these guys are going to take care of you.
And it was a similar situation where I was working with my client, and same thing. I had heard about the loss of a friend. And so I said, okay, listen, just whatever they need, just tell them to call us. We're here to help. I'm not expecting anything. We'll just, if they need someone to help them figure it out, that's what we're all about, is really being there when people need us most. And so it was probably however many weeks later, and I had no idea that was going on the other side either.
So you both got referred. The same person was referred to both of you, and neither of you knew it, and you were both talking to this person trying to help them, right?
Well, we were both talking to both of their friends. Two different friends.
Yeah, and neither of you each other.
So one of my clients was friends with this same person, and one of his clients is friends with and they both referred this gal to us. And she goes, "Oh, so-and-so's coming to see you." I go, "I don't have an appointment with that name on my book." And she goes, I said, "Maybe Steve." She goes, "Oh, it's in Steve's." I go, "Well, I don't know how that happened, but whatever."
Yeah.
But then when we found out, we both talked to our clients, they both referred him.
That's really cool.
That's a great feeling to know that people believe and trust in us too.
Yeah,
for sure.
So let's talk a little bit about your team. Obviously, you guys are expanding. You're probably hiring right now, right?
Constant.
Do you want to talk about your other partners in the business?
Yeah, absolutely. God, I'll let you lead off with that.
So when Steve came into the business about 6 years ago, I was in a management role, and my role was recruiting for New York Life at the time. And I had a team of maybe 14, 15 agents under me. And like I said, they made some management changes that kind of prompted me to do this with Steve. And so I stepped back into an agent role, and then we put this business together with Blue Door, which allows us to hire our own people. So one of the gals that works for me, Carla Jagodinsky, has probably just been one of the best people, friends, agents that I've ever met. And she came on board with us. And
she won that award last year.
She was Agent of the Year for the region last year.
And the I Beat Steve Award.
I hold the I Beat Steve Award. I'm not sure who won it for 2020.
He does not hold it this year.
I think I'd have to go back and check the numbers as to if Carla or anybody else took it off me. but he and I had a pretty similar year, but he did edge me out. And then we have another gentleman, Daniel Wrights, out of Allentown. Dan's got 28 years experience. He traded for Morgan Stanley.
Yes.
For 28 years. And I met him through a friend. I was talking to her, and we were having actually an open house for their business, and she had a whole bunch of people there, and this guy's there in a suit, and we just started chatting, and she introduced me. I reached out maybe a week later. I said, "Hey, just would love to network with you, maybe grab a cup of coffee and see if we could maybe just trade some names," because I knew he was in the financial side, just trading and doing stocks. And, we were more in the insurance side and the risk management side of the business. And he goes, no, I'd love to talk to you. And we had lunch. And as we're talking, he just stops me. He goes, are you hiring? I'm like, are you looking? He goes, yeah, I'm not really happy where I'm at. He goes, I want to come work for you. I said, we're a startup. He goes, no, everything you're saying is great. I love it. He goes, the fact that you're mixing it all and doing it all. He goes, it's all in one spot. I said, that's the idea. All in one spot. Insurance, investments, retirement, all in one spot. And there's a whole bunch more layers that are even coming. So he did. He quit where he was at like a week later and he came on board.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
And
between the four of us, we have like 75, 80 years experience. And then if you throw our dad into the mix, it's like 120 years.
A lot.
yeah,
It's a lot. Yeah. And then all the junior agents.
And then we have
even,
other,
like there's junior associates that not even counting. Plus we just hired another full-time assistant. So.
And you're still hiring right now?
We are.
Still
So
looking.
we're looking for other team members, as we say. And that's truly, it's a great career opportunity, but we look for people who fit in the team, who have the same philosophies, the same, goals, so that we can work together.
What is it exactly? Like, what are you guys looking for?
When it comes to a candidate,
Yeah.
someone who is career oriented. So I'm going to go back to something my father always used to tell us, that, wants to be able to write their own paycheck, right? Who wants to push to actually do more for themselves and their family. And then, we even there's a mentorship that even goes along with it, and you're working with a team of collective, 80 years plus experience. So the nice thing is you're not trying to figure it out by yourself. Like, we're here to show you the ropes, to show you where we made mistakes and show you how to grow and make you successful. And we all grow together and we win together. And I think when it's a win-win, you can't lose.
Yeah.
So one thing we tell everybody too is, if you work with Steve, you don't just get Steve. And if you're working with me, you don't just get me. You're getting all of us. So the four of us, the four senior, associates or senior agents there that have the experience, we kind of all sit and talk about everybody else's clients together in kind of like a board. And we put this together where let's put the right solution together no matter what. It's not just his ideas or my ideas. It's let's find the right solution that's in the marketplace. And that's the thing, we're working as a team. So if you go to New York City or Philadelphia and hire a team like that, you better have a lot of money. And we're providing that value here to all the blue collar folks that need it and the white collar folks that want it. So it's for both. That's the beauty of our firm. We could give you whatever you need.
Nice. What advice would you either give somebody either just starting out, like coming on board with you guys, or just in general, like an entrepreneurial type of person that is maybe looking to make a big move? What would you say?
As a client or as someone who's looking for a career?
I think maybe just someone looking for a career, just general good like business advice.
So I think, for a career, you have to find or have an understanding of maybe what direction you're just trying to go, where it is you're trying to get to, and then figure out what your next best steps are there, to get you there. With the career path Kriss and I chose, what's nice is that, there is, and same thing with us, there was mentoring, involved. It wasn't like we had to figure it all out on our own. So I think having a mentor in any career that you choose, someone to look up to, someone to help, guide you is super, super important, whichever career it is, because that's going to help you avoid, the pitfalls and, could project you further in that career a lot quicker than if you, take the time to just go through the hard knocks yourself.
Yeah, so we'll help you avoid the potholes, so to speak. I could watch you and let you step in it, and
there's a lot of potholes around here,
and laugh at you. Or I could say, listen, let's sidestep that a little bit. You get to where you want to go faster. I've already done that. Don't do that. That's the difference. There's an old African proverb that we throw around our office. You have two choices. If you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, then we all go together.
Love it.
Yep.
And it really makes sense. It resonated with me whenever the hell I heard that years ago. But it's the truth. You could get way more done together than you can all by yourself. Because odds are there's experience sitting at the table. And somebody's going to just say, don't step in that pothole. Step over it. Go like that. Oh, thanks. I was going right for that. And that's going to save you time, and it's going to save you headache and stress. And you got people here helping you.
What does the future look like for Blue Door?
So
huge.
Huge.
Yeah. No, I mean, we have aspirations, but I think we're going to, we try and remain humble too. So, But we're looking to grow the practice, and I guess we'll just, see where it goes, and if it goes where we would like to, it should be where we're available to a lot more people.
So you said you guys brought on this other associate, and you're going to be offering new services. Is that right?
Yeah. So we just over the past 3 months have been in negotiations where we're able to now offer property and casualty coverage. So we're going to have a whole new branch through a partnership. And if you need homeowners, you need business insurance, we're going to be able to handle all that now starting next month.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's that one-stop shop. If somebody has any questions about their insurance, great. If you have questions about your retirement, great. If you need help with your stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, we have all the people in place for it. There's a whole team there, so it's not like, well, Steve's my insurance agent, I have to go across the street to my broker. We have them all in-house.
Yeah.
They're all there. One stop. So stop at 340 Market. We'll take care of all of it.
Good commercial there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, talking a little bit about, sales, and, we talked about some good like sales stories, and how about like a good success story that maybe a client that you've really helped in a specific way, whether it was an individual or maybe a business. Are there any stories that come to mind that a customer, came back to you and said like, wow, you guys just like really helped me here?
Well, we can never divulge any personal information. So without their standing here talking about it, I get a lot of different pats on the back for different things. And I think our style and our humility, we kind of just overlook it. We're just like, you're welcome. You don't have to thank me. It's just a part of the job. But just helping people through their worst days. It really makes you humble when you're doing death claims for life insurance. It's fun to do the retirement side of the business because you're helping someone retire and you're handing them big checks and you watch them go, either buy a house or travel somewhere. That's fun. But like, you just see so much that I guess it almost becomes commonplace for us. But when you're with someone after they lose a spouse or a loved one, and we really get to make that difference financially, it really hits home what you do for a living, So that's probably the biggest thing to me that stands out over the 12 years I've been doing it. When you're handling claims for people, it's just almost life-changing.
Yeah.
I agree with Kriss. That's when it boils down to it. Out of everything we do, when you talk about importance, it's that. Because when you know that a family could be okay because of what you did, and they're really looking to you at that point to say, am I okay? And you could say, yeah. And it's, then that you've done a good job, because it's you could make sure that they can move on in probably one of their most stressful times in their lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, kind of talking a little bit about that, and, I feel like a lot of people sometimes, like when they hear either life insurance or just insurance in general, they're like, oh boy, like that's boring.
That costs a lot, right?
Oh, yeah, that's expensive.
They're like,
that's boring. Like how do you make it exciting for people, whether it's your team or whether it's, somebody that you're looking to work with? Like, how do you get somebody excited about, talking about insurance?
Well, it's solution based, so we never ever talk to anybody about a product. We have a process that we stick to. We're very rigid about, and the process uncovers what a client's trying to do. So, let's say I'm working with you, and we go through this questionnaire, and you say, I got all the insurance I need. Okay, let's just make sure. Let's talk about it, chart it all, and make sure it's the right coverage for the right solution for you and your family. And then if that's the case, then I'll just move on. It's kind of like building a house. So there's your foundation, there's your structure, and then there's all your finish work. So we treat it that way. You ever build a house, you have a good solid foundation. Well, that's all your risk management. The next phase is all your building, your stick, your doorways, your frames, everything. It's everything that builds the structure of the home. So Steve likes to call it structured asset management, or structured assets that you're putting
together.
It's all your
asset accumulation.
You're building, you're putting everything in your house, right? Well, we could help you with all that. Everything's from stocks, bonds, mutual funds, who knows, you name it. Everybody's got different ideas, so we could help them with all that. And then the finish work, that's kind of retirement. But the finish work is what makes a house. You ever walk into certain homes? It's like, well, that's nice. But then you walk in other homes and there's all this crown molding and all this other stuff. I'm like, whoa, like finish work makes a difference, And I think we really pay attention to all those details because of our process. So we walk people all the way through it. No one gets excited about insurance, I got to tell you that.
So, you know what?
But we make it a part of, hey, if you're building a house, you got to have a footer and you got to have a foundation. If you're building a financial house, you got to have You got to have some risk management. You got to have insurance in place.
Honestly, Kriss talked about it earlier. He said, paint the picture, right? So I always tell my clients, listen, here's where we stand today. That's great. But I really want to know what it looks like and where you're trying to get to. I want to know what that picture looks like later. Let's talk about that. Let's figure out that. And then if we know where that picture looks like, then we can actually, let's call it a puzzle. We take the picture, blow it up into a million puzzle pieces. We're going to help you figure out what are the right pieces. So listen, is insurance sexy? Hell no.
It's not?
It is, but it isn't. So, right? So it just depends on how it fits into your puzzle. And I always say things are tools. You should look at them as tools. You look at them as leverage. You look at them at what they could do for you and your family to create your final picture. And like Kriss said, we have a process. We talk about it in that fashion with the financial house. But when you start adding and tying all this together, and people really they're like, wow, it's really not so bad. And then now we can work with that client year over year to really help them get to what they're trying to achieve. Again, I talked about it earlier. It's all about them first. So if we can understand what's most important to them, we can help them.
Cool. So how can our listeners learn a little bit more about Blue Door?
Schedule an appointment. Or you could visit our website, or you could check out.
And by the way, it's Blue Door Financial, but blue is spelled BLU. So it's BLU doorfinancial.com.
That's right. The E was taken. So
yes.
So one of our clients said, ooh, the French spelling.
Yeah. It's blue.
Yeah. So he liked it.
The E was taken.
Yep. So yeah, visit our website, schedule an appointment, schedule a Zoom call, listen to On the Stacks.
I was going to say, or come to the Blue Door studio.
Yeah,
yes.
Absolutely.
It's got a good ring to it.
It does.
Plus, I get to keep the Blue Door, right?
Absolutely.
Yes. So this Blue Door is staying here.
Yeah.
It's mine now.
We look forward to seeing how it evolves.
Yeah, and tell the story again. So a year ago, I don't think we said it in the beginning. I mean, we talked about it in episode 1, but I just want to tell it again because there's a lot more people that listen now that weren't, may not have listened to episode 1. So let's kind of just go back just for a quick minute. When Kriss, when you commented on Facebook, like, hey, I'll be your first guest. And I said, well, the only way you can come is if you bring a Blue Door.
Right.
And then maybe like a week or so or whatever it was after that I texted you and was like, all right, like I'm doing this. Like, you want to come on the podcast? And that's when you were out in Vegas.
We were away at the time.
And you're like, I think I can make it, but we're coming back like the day before. And I'm like, could you do it? And you're like, yeah. And then, how did this, I have a physical Blue Door I'm looking at right now in my studio. So how did this come about?
So it's actually, day before we're coming to the studio. And I think Kriss said to me, hey, don't forget we're going there tomorrow. I'm like, hey, don't forget, we need a Blue Door. Oh, by the way, it's 4:00 in the afternoon. I said, well, let's go find a door. So 24
hours before.
24 hours before. I'm like, hey, you know what? Because I had just done some construction work on the building. I'm like, I got this guy. So I got a guy, right? Everybody always says, I got a guy.
Everybody's got a guy.
I literally had a guy.
A door guy.
A door guy, right?
A Russian door guy.
He had all
even better.
He had all these, just extra doors from projects. So I call him up. He's like, yeah, I can meet you over there. So we go over there. I don't know. What was it? $30, $50? I don't even remember.
All I know is it was this big dark warehouse and we were running around with our phone flashlights trying to find a door. And we did.
So we find the door.
Finding some big Russian guy. I'm like, either we're going to get shot or we're getting a really cheap door.
So we may not make it on the podcast.
We got the latter. So Kriss and I take the door back. We take it, to an area where we had, and we turned it into the Blue Door, actually, because it wasn't that. We put a couple good coats of paint on it, and I think it was the next morning. Kriss was still putting a final coat of paint on it. So when we
still wet.
When we brought it to the studio,
it was a little sticky when we brought it over.
I remember you coming in and be like, it might be a little tacky still.
Oh my God, we still laugh about it. So it's funny.
It's funny to talk about your beginnings.
Yeah, it's crazy. This whole thing started, with you guys, and I really appreciate you guys coming on episode 1, and
we're honored to be back here on episode 52.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean,
it doesn't feel like a year because I guess I sat on my couch for so long this past year.
Yeah, like it doesn't.
I don't feel like I did a lot.
Yeah.
But when I look back at the year, I'm like, we really did a lot.
Yeah,
I watched a lot of TV. Like my daughter said, I think I've seen every movie and every
Netflix
every
show.
possible Netflix series you could watch. Like, there's nothing left to watch.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'll tell you what's good that's going to come out of this pandemic. There's a lot of great music coming. You got to think of all these stars that are cooped up and writing music. And I'm a big music buff. I love it. everything from country to grunge, and I can't wait to hear some of the music coming in the next 2 years.
Yeah,
I like going to concerts, so that's one thing I miss is just getting back out and enjoying that, having a beer, listening to some music.
Yeah. Or the On the Stacks podcast in the Blue Door studio.
Yeah, we'll have to, maybe an outdoor, a picnic version.
Yeah. Is there anything else before we end? Is there anything else that you guys?
Yeah, I have a question for you. What did you learn in the past year of this experience?
Oh man, that's a good question.
Yeah, 52 different people.
Yeah. You know what?
I should say 51 because here we are again.
I think I've the podcast has taken me in so many directions that I think I never thought were possible. The amount of people that I've met, the guests that have came on the podcast. I'm just trying to. I don't have a good number of how many, but a lot of the guests I didn't even know. Like literally, like they either got referred or they asked me to come on the podcast because like they saw stuff on social media or like you guys told somebody about it, and then it was just like kind of like a snowball effect. And I think I learned so much just in general, like just about people and building community and building engagement and it like I said, the whole On the Stacks thing just really just took me in this crazy direction to the point that I've had people in up until now, there's people in 12 different countries that have listened to this podcast. And
That's pretty cool.
I never would have thought that was possible. I had people messaging me on LinkedIn from Australia telling me that they listened to it. I have a listener in India that listens to every episode.
That's awesome.
And she actually messages me every week on Instagram and just tells me about the episode. And I know she's not lying because she mentions something that a guest said. So she's listening to the episodes and she says she finds value in it, which is like that's just totally cool to me.
That is
so
cool.
For me to be able to create this platform, the podcast, and there's so much more to come too. Like I'm working on other stuff through my website on thestacks.com with blogs, and I want to get into some video and some other stuff too. But like I said, just the amount of people that have just reached out to me that I don't know, and I couldn't even tell you their names because, like I said, it was just random people that have just messaged me, whether it was on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram, and just told me that they found value in the podcast, and just said like, "Oh my God, that's so cool about that person." Like to me, it's fun, it's cool, and like the amount of people that I reach every month with this thing, it's just unbelievable.
It's humbling.
Yeah, it is. And like I said, and kind of like where I started with this whole thing, like, I mean, you guys remember because you guys were episode 1, and I talked about a little bit earlier in the episode, like when we did episode 1, like we were in the same studio that we're in now, but it was like completely empty. Like it was embarrassing. Like it was like looking back on it now, it's like it's cool and it's fun and it's like holy shit, like man, that's where we came from, and it was like a year ago. And like you said, like it feels like it was yesterday, but not. And like I said, a lot of the people that in the community that just kind of rallied around me, where it was the table or the fridge and the TV and some of the other technology in here, like I don't know, I'm just kind of speechless at the amount of people that just kind of came out of the woodwork and just said like, yo, you're doing something really cool and we just want to help you. And so many people have done so much stuff for me for free. And, I think there's something to be said about that. And I'm grateful.
Good.
I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, that's
and,
great.
I'm grateful for you guys. I'm so glad that like it kind of worked out how you guys came back for episode 52. Now we have this partnership, and I don't know. I'm just grateful.
Listen, I'm excited for the future.
Yeah,
I'm excited to grow with you and see what you have to unfold yet.
Yeah, it's turned into a media company, like a full-blown media company by mistake. And
listen, the best things that happen are usually by accident.
Yeah.
So you never know where you're going to end up, but you get there for the right reasons because that's where you're supposed to be. And so, yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, this whole thing, like, and also for maybe some people listening may not even know too. So this is the 1-year anniversary of the podcast today with this episode. However, On the Stacks has been around actually for 2 years. So like, this brand has been building for 2 years now at this point. And, it's just, like I said, the direction and everywhere that it's gone, like I've met so many great people. And like I said, like at the beginning of the podcast, people were like, you can like charge money for this stuff. And I'm like, I didn't even start yet. Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, charge money for what? And, for me, I didn't start this to make money. It wasn't like, knock on wood, like, I'm okay financially. Like it wasn't like a side hustle for me where I needed the money to pay my bills. But people are saying like, you should charge people for this. I'm like, why would I ever charge anyone? A guest, not a guest, maybe advertising or, things like that eventually. But like I had people that offered me money like right off the bat. And they're like, what can the X amount of money get me? And I'm like, dude, I didn't even start. I'm grateful that you want to like throw money at this. Like, thanks. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't like, how could I start a podcast or anything and start throwing ads in front of people like right off the bat? Like, who the hell is going to want to listen to that?
Right.
So like, I said, let me build this thing for a while. Let me, get some listenership and just really build this and just get people's trust before I start throwing ads in front of people. Cause I think, people would, at this point, I think people expect, some type of ads and things like that for me. I have an overhead here. I got to pay, this isn't free, so, now people expect it. And of course now I need to, cause it costs me a little bit more now to run it than it did a year ago. But yeah, like I said, it's been a crazy, fun ride, and I'm looking forward to, what's going to happen in the future. So
cool.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on 1 year. Look forward to our partnership, and glad to be back.
Yeah. And hope you guys enjoyed those cookies too.
We did.
Yeah, they were fantastic.
We had some awesome cookies, and if you're listening and you follow me on social media, you'll see the pictures. Jane Sugar Magnolia. Shout out to Jane for making these awesome cookies. Really cool stuff. So, all right, guys, on the Stacks podcast, Blue Door Financial, Kris and Steve Vanesko. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Bill.
If you'd like to learn more about the On the Stacks podcast, be sure to search the hashtag On the Stacks on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and leave a review. We'll catch you next time on the Stacks.